Hi, thanks for joining the SG Child Show today. This week has been really phenomenal. This podcast will come out in today or tomorrow. So heads up, Lisa. It's gonna be it's a beautiful day here in Salt Lake City. Where are you coming from, Lisa? Where are we
I'm
talking?
in Columbus, Ohio.
And how's your weather? Is it still winter besides you
We
today?
we had like 80 degrees a couple days ago, and then we had frost this morning. So we're in that kind of crazy. You can get all four seasons in one day in
Bipolar.
Ohio.
Yeah, right.
Yep. Yep.
Exactly. Oh gosh, I know how that goes. Yeah, it's the same here. It was like winter for maybe, 2 days here in Utah, which is usually, all 5 months. So we're
Yeah.
not really used to this. I'm having an exciting springtime. Well, it's so great to have you here. This is my guest, Lisa, and I don't want to mispronounce your last name, so I'm going to go ahead and let you do the introduction. Please do introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you and what brought you here today.
Sure. So my name's Lisa Reigel. I was a teacher for 9 years. I've been an administrator in schools. And then when I did my doctoral work, I was really focused. I always was kind of interested in the at-risk kid and then thinking of how do you move the humans in a system as a leader. So I was always focused on the human side of education. So I did my doctorate in leadership, but I was focused on kind of engagement and motivation theory. And then about 5, 6 years ago, I really got into the neuroscience and thinking, real change happens in the brain. And we've got a lot of questions and problems that teachers are dealing with in regards to emotional resilience and executive function and, just behavior issues and things that really can be explained through the brain. So
Yeah.
what I've been doing now, I do keynotes, I do workshops. I take about 5 or 6 districts per year that I really go deep dive with districts that really want to make transformative shifts to align their system more with the humans and the brain science. And that's been really fun and rewarding.
Oh,
And then I try to talk to as many people as possible, get the word out there.
that's the most important part.
Yeah.
I agree. Couldn't agree more. Like, especially on a show like this where it's access for everyone. Everyone has free access. I'm all about access, like everyone deserves and should be able to access information wherever they're at. So I agree with that 100%, especially teachers. Oh, bless their hearts. I mean, what a hard career that do you think may used to be a little bit more delightful sounding or even, go thinking about when, you were a kid and you were like, oh, I can't wait to be a teacher today. Today, it just seems very so much pressure and you would have to know just how to handle and, appropriately dignify all of these different types of human learners. And that is a difficult ask for one individual, but thousands. I mean, I don't even know how many teachers are in the United States, probably millions, probably more like millions of teachers. I don't even know. But what a big ask. And how do you systemically converge all of the information that all of those, every single one of those teachers need?
Right.
Impossible feeling.
Right.
Like,
Right.
yeah,
Well, and
definitely.
I think it's really hard right now because the system has shifted. When we started having high stakes testing where it was connected to teacher quality, because like I had tests when I was a kid, you'd show up and they'd be like, we're taking the California Achievement Test today. And you're like, okay, whatever. And you just took the test and moved on because it was really about those tests were about understanding us and like kind of where we were and what we needed to do. Well, then they connected it to teacher quality and the whole system shifted from I teach kids to I teach content. And so now, if you're a neurodivergent learner, or if you're a kid who comes from trauma, or you're a kid who's not just going along with everybody else at the right pace, getting what it used to be you were a puzzle to be solved. Now you're a problem to be handled because you're impacting my data. So I think moving the system requires a mind shift away from the teacher quality data issue and back into the humans. And I think we're really at a good time to do that conversation because, the tests that we currently give really measure content transmission. And there's no purpose for that in today's world. Kids don't need to demonstrate content transmission. And if they do that, we don't walk away and say, you're ready for your life, right?
Yeah.
So we have, so we have kind of an outdated purpose. And then we kind of went to career development, but with AI coming in, nobody can tell you. I read somewhere that 60% of the jobs in 10 years don't exist right now. Not new jobs, just jobs, right? So there is no real career development pathway that we could really do. So that purpose is a little outdated. So I'm kind of excited because I feel like that at this point, the obvious purpose for school is to prepare kids for a post AI world. And I believe that a post AI world where humans fit is in that gap between what the machines can do and where our brains come into play. And that's all the executive functioning, emotional regulation, social skills. It's all the human skills that we need. So I'm hoping the system will start to turn back that direction and really focus on what kids need to be successful in relationships, jobs, life, whatever.
We have to refocus. We've got to evolve systems with evolving times, with evolving eras, with evolving digital access, like I said again, and it has to be done. Otherwise we are putting disservice on all of these children to learn. Basically, my husband always says it, I'm an analog thinker. I'm an analog, and I'm like, sorry, we're gonna have to give you an upgrade, honey. Like, we're gonna have to talk about some of the technologies and things, because I am a very big proponent of AI, and I kind of make the joke that you shouldn't be afraid of AI. You should be afraid of the people who know how to use it best. And so I think that that's where our strong points will be, in where we can teach how to use it for our world's best, equality, equity, all of those things. And then how do we then get the maybe older generation that haven't even been on board with this new, technology, that's haven't even seen the tip of the iceberg with AI, or have no idea on how to use it. Like, how do we introduce these things to them?
Well, and I think that it truly is that we also, kids are using it right now to cheat, right? It's like they're using it to just complete the assignments that teachers give. And so the real system shift has to start with, like, what we do in school needs to change, right? Those skills, if AI can answer the question for you, then we're asking the wrong question. So we need to start to think about how we start to shift what teaching and learning looks like, so that students learn how to use AI for good. I was just talking to somebody who said, I use AI as a critical friend, and it really helps me to shape my perspectives or look for holes in my thinking. So in that case, he's using AI to sharpen his thinking. The problem that we see in schools and with a lot of AI use is it's replacing our thinking. We're just saying, do this for us. And what happens then is that when our brain is not using those skills, those executive functions, they don't develop. So like we even see today, we don't memorize phone numbers anymore, which is great. My phone has all my phone numbers. It's wonderful. But I grew up having to memorize phone numbers. So that executive function in my brain, those neural connections developed, and that portion of my brain works. Kids didn't develop that. And so we're seeing a lot of problems with math, because math requires a lot of working memory. So I think schools have to start thinking of, how are we building the raw materials that are not being built in the current context because of the way we live, whether it's technology or family structures, or just the way, when I was a kid, I had a lot of unstructured time. It was go out and find something to do, right? So that develops a lot of conflict resolution skills as I'm on my own, and creativity, and things that our kids just don't have that opportunity to do in the way that they live their life today. And schools have not filled the gap. They've just basically complained these kids are coming in without the same raw material. And it's like, well, yeah, but what are you doing about it?
Yeah. And let's talk about you had brought this up about the neuroscience a lot, because when we can understand, one of my very favorite things to say, when we can understand that behavior is communication, but it is the way that we are understanding how they are processing and how we are perceiving it, it is like a really big problem to ask and require, you know, students to be in an environment where they're not being accommodated and they're being taught to learn in ways that the world doesn't work in anymore. Like you had said,
Yeah.
it's so confusing. How do we help our teachers with this social emotional learning curve that everybody, I think has slighted into? There's definitely like more classes that are coming up available for those things that I see, but there's definitely still this lack of the human part of that. And that is
Mhm.
such a big part of, like, almost like a big, umbrella over this conversation, AI and humanity. Like, how do we
Yeah.
as humans regard our humanity and teach our children and teachers that there's got to be a way to bring it all together?
Right. Well, and I think part of the issue is that there are standalone classes, or the guidance counselor will come push in and do a lesson on something. But that's not how our brain learns. And so what we don't want is to teach about a skill or teach about an attribute. We want kids to have routines and practices that they develop those skills, not just know they exist.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I talk about in my book Neurowell is creating a culture with like shared routines. And and the first step is to really help people understand. You said behavior is communication. I talk about behavior is the intersection between our biology and our context.
Mhm.
So if we understand the biology of behavior and we also understand that context influences, we can change the biology of our brain by thoughtful, intentional context, which is pretty exciting. And so we have an opportunity to create this like neuro-well bubble over our school so that when kids come into our school, our context is positively impacting their biology.
Absolutely.
And it starts by understanding that biology. And like one of the things I always promote teachers is tell the kids about their biology. So I always use the example that your brain is like a giant company. And so you have like a CEO's office where the leader lives, and then you have like different departments that serve. And 80% of the traffic in our brain is unconscious. So we are doing a whole lot of thinking that we don't have access to, that impacts then by the time it gets to the thinking part of our brain at our CEO's office, it's been very colored by the non-cognitive traffic. So I talk about these departments. First, we have vagus, which is our vagus nerve, and its job is to monitor. It's like a systems manager. So it's monitoring, is my heart pounding? Is my stomach emptying? Is all systems go? And it's also monitoring, where is my body in space? And kids today, so it's called vestibular and proprioceptive input. Kids today have very weak input because the way we develop that is not how we live. We roll down hills, merry-go-rounds, sit and spins, all of those things where your body is tumbling all over the place and your brain has to figure out where it is in space. That builds that proprioceptive input. But when we're sitting there scrolling on a phone, we're not doing that. And so our kids have low input. So our vagus nerve is like a little bit agitated all the time because it's not sure where our body is in space. So it sends messages to our data center. I named mine Harold. So Harold is my thalamus, my data center. His job is to take the information from Vegas and also look around and pick up all the sensory information in the environment. And what I think educators don't understand is that all of this is happening in a part of the brain that can't tell time and doesn't know a story. So it is simply making sensory associations. And so if Harold thinks that this situation is similar to something from my past, he pulls up that association and says, well, how did our body react the last time to keep us safe? So then he sends a report to Bob. Bob is our security monitor. He's our amygdala. And Bob decides whether to wail on the button for panic or just tap it. If he wails on it, the message comes up to us, where the leader of our brain comes up and says, hey, we've got serious danger. You need to go get a cup of coffee and we'll call you when things are okay. If it's just a little agitated and he taps it, message goes up and says, hey, boss, we're not sure how to interpret this situation. We got some negative associations, some positive. Can you weigh in? And that's what we want, is to be able to go into that alert phase when we have some stressors where we're still making controlled decisions versus go get a cup of coffee and Bob and I'll handle this. And then we come back and we have to clean up the mess that Harold and Bob made. And so if people truly understand that simple part of biology, then when I'm in a classroom, it changes how I talk to kids, because I'm not going to come up and say, Sarah, what are you thinking? Because I would know that from a biology standpoint, you're not. Harold and Bob are thinking, right? So instead, I might say, Sarah, what is Harold telling you right now? You seem like you're getting really, really stressed. What is Harold saying? And so you're separating that out. Or you're having a really emotional day and I'm like, hey, Bob is like off the chain today. What can we do to work together to calm him down? And so many times the kids will be like, I know, because we feel out of control when Bob and Harold are in charge, but we don't know how to take control. So being able to change the way we approach how we visualize behavior, and also recognize that whatever the kid is doing in the moment, or whatever my work colleague is doing in the moment, has something to do with right now, but it may have nothing to do with right now. It may have to do with faulty sensory associations that Harold's making between the data in the environment and something from the past.
Mhm.
And so it may have nothing to do with me. So I think if we understand those things, we can keep our sort of professional hat on and not put our personal defensive hat on to escalate the experience.
Yeah.
We can be more a practitioner, researcher, and be like, something in this environment is setting this kid off. So what can we do to help them gain self-control? And, all the way from the way administrators process discipline with kids to the way teachers act on discipline to behavior plans, none of it that I see in schools. I would say 80% of the schools that I'm in, and that's being generous, don't align brain science.
Yeah. No. And then you see this, let's just call it as it is, this huge influx of homeschool now that people have had to draw their, especially neurodivergent children right here, out of schools, because there is absolutely no way that this child can thrive in an environment that is not looking out for their individual specific biological needs on any moment of any day. It's all, like you said, it's all about what is quality control or whatever. I mean, that's just a horrible way to look at teaching our future generations of individuals and humans that are going to run governments, companies, AI people. Okay. Like, let's guide them and nurture them, foster these learning environments for them so that it's not this stagnant, decay really of what's going to be happening if everyone is just literally staring at a screen. And, I love that you said that about the proprioception and things like that, because I never really considered how much that was such an important part of the brain development. And it's funny, it was so random. We had a litter of puppies, and in reading about how to best get them, the best kind of brain, if you will, you kind of hold them and roll them around, and you also do that. You do the rolling, and oh my gosh, now I'm like putting two and two together here. That, how good it is for humans and kids as well. So I'm going to go.
And you even notice dogs, before they lay down to relax their bodies, they go around and around and around in a circle.
So true.
And then they lay down. And sometimes people say that's because they're seeing if there's a snake, but that's not actually true. It's that they're naturally calming their body down. And, when they get excited, they pant and they breathe. And there's so many things when you look at the behavior of animals that they do these things naturally, but humans don't live in nature like that anymore. And so we do not have really the brain matching with the context of our times. It's still a brain that would be good for us many, many years ago. So we have to make changes. And, to your point about having to pull your kid out of school because it's the wrong context, I feel like there's an understanding of the things that we're talking about, and there's an understanding that kids' brains are different, but the system is not set up. And so teachers are put in this really impossible situation because they're being pressured to get through. Everybody has to go to the next page because it's the next day and you've got to have tests. And they know that they're doing practices that are not good for some of the kids in their class and devastating for some. They know that, but they can't figure out how to get both conflicting systems to work together. And that's really what I walk in to try to do, is say, you can still get good test scores. You can do all these things that you need with a human-centered system, as opposed to a control and compliance and completion type of system that doesn't really prepare them for the end goal anyways. They're not ready for their future.
Right. And if we really look at society as a whole, we're ready for that human-centered piece. Like we're embracing it. We're talking about it on podcasts. We're making it normal conversation so that it can be a just normal, right, bias to everyone. And it doesn't have to be this struggle to comply. It's like all of this compliance. Interesting, just as a parent also, kind of in having a 10-year gap between my oldest stepdaughter and my younger. It's astronomical how many things can change in that time, how much changed in that child's environment and learning and the school processes to what there is now, and how differently we need to set up these, not only learning systems at home, but especially at school. But when we can't do these types of things, sometimes, like you had said, sometimes the administrators don't even know how to help and how to change things. Where can we start, kind of, as far as, like, I'm going to put your website up here to show, epinstitute.net. Tell us a little bit about that and how people can start to look for help.
Sure. So EP stands for Education Partnership. So my entire consulting career has been about working as a team, right? Partnering up, whether it's parents partnering with the school to bridge that context, whether it's teachers partnering together, whether it's businesses partnering with districts. And so it's really about everybody coming together under a similar purpose. So EP Institute, that website, you can find some information about the work that I do in schools. I do keynote addresses, I do workshops, I do leadership development, leadership coaching, I do direct teacher support. I'll come in and sit elbow to elbow with teacher teams and build stuff with them. So I am there not to just tell them what they should do, but to be there to help them get it accomplished. And then I have 2 books. I have the NeuroWell book, is the one that is really focused on how to create that context in a school that will make people happier, healthier, and more successful. So it goes through, like, the first part of the book talks about why kids are not okay right now. And then the second really goes into a deeper dive in the brain science. The third section's about what can we do in a classroom setting. And this could be homeschool or in a traditional school. And then the fourth section is some information about how we help parents create positive context in their home. So that's the NeuroWell book. And then to get at
all that, right? I didn't ask you ahead of time.
Yep.
Perfect.
That's good. Yep. And then the second book is called Aspirations to Operations. And that is a leadership book. And it's industry agnostic. Any industry leader anywhere, if you're a leader, you'd find it useful. But it basically talks about, like what we were talking today about, that the system has to shift. And I think too often we put the weight of these problems on the teacher. And that's not fair, because the teacher exists within a system where he has limited control. Yeah. So Aspirations to Operations is like, how do you take your dream and operationalize it using the brain science to understand the staff that you need to lead? What do people need in order to be energized around a change, and so that they'll be engaged and they'll actually sustain that change? So that's kind of my mission, is to help people, start to think about the human again, because I think everybody, you know, it's a simple decision to say, I want to be happier and healthier and more successful. And it's truly not that hard to get there, but you have to be intentional and
Yeah.
strategic and knowledgeable. So you've got to have self-awareness, self-regulation, and some self-control once you make that choice, which the choice is simple, but getting there can be a little bit more complicated because you have to be intentional and repetitive. It has to be a context, not an event.
Yep. I agree. And you could start by doing that, everybody, by just taking daily steps to work on a daily practice of any kind of intent. Read a positive quote every morning so that you feel better. Write down or journal or speak into your phone. There's always more options than just writing. You can always sing special message to yourself. There's so many ways to access and activate intentional thinking and intentional living. So I absolutely agree with that. That's funny. My head like shook no, and I was saying something positive. I just noticed that. What am I doing? That's probably my ADHD just going, yes, this is so exciting. But there's really so much power in what you're saying. And when the right people get this information, they can make a world of difference. So please, please go to the epinstitute.net and find out more information and how you can connect with Lisa. Check out her books, NeuroWell, as well as Aspirations to Operations. And I love the way you talked about the company or the operating system of our brains. And I think that one of the most important things we can teach our even preschool age children is every bit of that beginning of their brain process and where they are at. Remind them throughout their journey where they are at in their brain. It helps them so much to feel normal, to feel like they are not the only ones going through this, to remind them that all of these human things that they're experiencing are just that, human things. They're not rare and special because of those things. They're rare and special because of the thoughts, ideas, and value that they bring as individuals to the world. So that's what we need to teach our kids.
Yeah. Well, and even the little ones, like if you teach them that they get to be the boss of their brain, they like being a boss.
Yes.
So if you teach them they're the boss, and then when they're out of control, instead of what's wrong with you, you can be like, hey, we got to work together because Bob is freaking out and we need to calm Bob down. And they'll be like, I know, right? So you start to teach them that intentional talking to Harold and Bob. And, when you think about a gratitude journal or affirmations or looking, even I used to ask my kids, tell me 2 good things that happened today. Every day we did that at dinner. And there's actually biology involved in that. When we tell Harold to look for something, then Harold is looking for patterns. So if we say the world is kind, people are kind, you're smart, if we say those things, Harold's going to look for things in our environment that confirm that bias. And, there's a very famous experiment that they did where they had people count how many times somebody made a basket on a basketball court. And then they stopped the video and asked participants, how many baskets did you witness? And they said it. And then they said, did you notice the giant gorilla that walked across the floor? And more than they didn't even see it. And so our brain is primed to see what we tell it to see. So if we teach kids, you get to be the boss of your brain and you get to decide what you see in your environment. And it's more fun to see fun things than it is to see sad things. And because I feel like we've got all these beautiful, positive, wonderful gorillas walking around our courts and we don't even notice them. And we're just so focused on the negative things that are going on. And then that plays into a confirmation bias and makes the problem worse.
Yep. Oh my gosh. Couldn't be more true too. And showing your kids by practicing yourself is the most important thing because they're watching all of that modeling behavior, the good and the bad. So when you do have those bad days, teach them how to resolve out of that. Teach them how to self-forgive. Teach them how to show self-care through accountability and knowing that, hopefully in more than just my house, showing that unconditional love literally means that unconditional, that no matter what comes to the table, if you can give it a perception of how it looks in love, you can change things and you can offer different directions to pursue ideas. I'm always telling my daughter's has a boyfriend, and I love to remind him that no matter his value doesn't ever come from the hard work he does or the, grade he got. It comes that because he's just him, because he's a good person. He is just a valuable human being. And I don't think that was anything anyone ever told him before. And to see the change that occurred over this last 6 months of having that, like, I do have that worth, that value, just because I am me, changes a person's life. I'll tell you what. So I don't know where I went off on that tangent, but it's so good. It's such a good thing to see just that, see the results of that happening for someone.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, and I think, again, it's that biology and context. And, the context we're in right now is so transactional. Kids are like, you have to perform, you have to do this assessment, you have to prove that you're good, you have to. So that message that you're sending him of what makes you amazing is just who you are, not what you did, is really powerful, because over and over and over, that exposure to just, I have to earn my keep, whether it's I'm constantly trying out for the next sports team. I'm not ever just good enough to be where I am, or I always have to get the test done, or I always have to, our kids are really put in a situation where they're not appreciated or recognized, or recognize in themselves beautiful things about who they are that make them valuable. I don't care if you can throw the football farther than somebody else, that's not what makes me excited about you. And so I think having, even one of the things parents can do at home is just toot your own horn and toot their horn. Like, just, at dinner, have positive things, and like, we could be sitting at dinner and I'm like, Sarah, tell me one thing about you that you are super proud of, and just let them brag on themselves. Or, you know what, I wanted to tell you, there were 2 things that I saw that you did today that I just so appreciated. Like taking a minute to thank people, hug and kiss your kids every day and tell them, I believe in you. You've got this, just little things like that to continue to feed Harold positive, 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 and try to combat all these negative filters that our current context is creating for our brain.
Isn't that the truth? This has been such a wonderful conversation. I really look forward to staying in touch with you and checking out the NeuroWell book, especially. I'm very interested to learn more about that and to just follow up with you. And please, in the future, if you have things that are coming up or happening, let me know so that I can make an announcement and share with everyone. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's been a great conversation. Everyone, please go visit epinstitute.net and check out Lisa Reigel and find her on social media. Where can we find you on social medias?
I'm on LinkedIn. So great. I'm working on getting onto the other ones, but for right now I'm on LinkedIn. So please feel free to connect with me, and you can message me through there, or my website has my email and everything else. I don't make it hard to reach out.
I love that. Thank you again. And look forward to staying in touch.
Thank you.